Hey there, brace yourself for today's video because we've put together a 7-day craziest story. Get ready for an adventure because this week's compilation is about the wildest rumors you've ever heard, dumbest ways to spend your time, and many more. Are you ready to dive headfirst into this whirlwind of entertainment? Don't miss out. Subscribe now and smash that notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. Story 1. Not something I overheard, but something semi-interesting nonetheless. I once went and got sushi with my mom, and I noticed a guy and a girl at another table very clearly on their first date. They were both dressed very nicely, a lot of awkward laughter. The guy was being ultra gentlemanly, like pulling her chair out for her. You know, just the usual stuff that tips an observer off that they were still very much getting to know each other and wanting to make a good impression. Fast forward 2.5 years. I was boarding a plane in Atlanta, Georgia, heading to Colorado with my brother to go skiing when I saw the same couple seated near the back of the plane. I was in the row directly in front of them, so when I put my bag up, I turned to them and said, "This is going to be super weird, but did you guys have your first date at insert sushi restaurant?" They both got wide-eyed in shock and laughed and told me they had, in fact, had their first date there. I told them I was there that night and just happened to recognize them when I boarded the plane. It was friendly and we chit-chatted for a bit. They were going skiing at the same place we were, so it was cool and all. Day 2 of our trip, my brother and I decided to go to the top of the mountain and take a few of the more advanced slopes down to the bottom. There were maybe a dozen or so people up there, and before taking off, we decided to look at the trail map to make sure we were going to get back to where the shuttle could pick us up without having to hike our gear for 2 miles. About 20 feet away from us, a guy got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend, and everyone clapped as she jumped up and down with excitement and said, "Yes!" They took off their helmets and goggles to kiss, and it was the same freaking couple. I literally was there for their first date, met them for the first time on a plane purely by chance because I was sitting in front of them, and was present when he proposed to her. I assume they're still married because at the rate we're going, I'm probably going to run into them again if one of them decides to file for divorce. You'll probably coincidentally be at the hospital at the same time the wife arrives to have their first child. And when they make a movie about this, the main character's name will be Miles Tone. That's a pretty cool story. Perhaps you're all quantumly entangled, so you'll keep running into them at further stages in their life. Unfortunately, what you don't realize is in a prior existence, you were madly in love with one of them and pledged to find them in their next life. While you have accomplished your vow, they're unaware of your prior life together, and that hidden part of yourself that knows of your past life is being slowly driven insane by constantly running into them, but not being able to get the waking you to do anything about expressing your true feelings. Sucks. This reminds me of the story of Wilmer McLean. On July 18th, 1861, Confederate General Beauregard had sat down for supper in the home of a Manassas local when a cannonball pierced through the house and landed in the kitchen fireplace. It was something of a surprise, but not so overwhelming as to ruin Beauregard's sense of humor. A comical effect of this artillery fight was the destruction of the dinner of myself and staff by a Federal shell that fell into the fireplace of my headquarters at the McLean house. He wrote in his diary, "Perhaps the shell would have been more of a shock had it not been just one of the many volleys in the first major campaign of the Civil War, the Battle of Bull Run. The house belonged to a man named William McLean, who had purchased the property in 1854. Beauregard had commandeered the property and McLean's well-situated house and barn as his headquarters, and later as a hospital for Confederate troops. McLean was happy to oblige the general as he himself was a retired officer in the Virginia militia and had profited nicely off of renting the property and speculating on commodities like sugar. But by the time the Second Battle of Bull Run had occurred on his doorstep and a pregnant wife, McLean had had enough. The profits no longer outweighed the dangers, and he decided to move south. In 1863, Wilmer McLean settled on the property surrounding the Two Rain Tavern at a small and quiet crossroads over 100 miles south of the chaos of Civil War battlefields. For 2 years, his family lived in the relative quietude of Southern Virginia until on April 9, 1865, Charles Marshall, General Robert E. Lee's aide, approached him. Marshall asked McLean to show him a place that was suitable for Lee and another general to meet. McLean first showed him a dilapidated home, but when Marshall rejected it, McLean reluctantly offered up his own residence for the meeting. Marshall accepted. Lee arrived at McLean's Appomattox courthouse property at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon in a crisp uniform. Shortly after, wearing his muddied field uniform, the other general arrived. It was Ulysses S. Grant. For about 25 minutes, the two spoke in McLean's parlor until eventually Lee brought up the purpose of their meeting, the surrender of the Confederate Army. Minutes later, the Civil War ended. Such it is that the Civil War started in William McLean's kitchen and ended in his parlor. I'm trying to think back to my life of anybody I may have run across like this, at the beginning of something and close to the end of something or in the middle of something that I may have only seen once or twice. I can't really think of anything myself. Have you ever had a situation like that where you've ran across someone at the beginning of something only to run into them in the middle or at the end of it? Story 2. Not that crazy as such, but when literally about to touch down, a lady got up and started walking urgently toward the bathroom. The cabin crew immediately started saying, "Madam, we're about to land. You have to sit down." The lady responded by screaming in a panic, "I'm gonna poop myself." They allowed her to continue. I was recently on a flight where about 45 minutes before landing, long international flight, I got up to pee and overheard a flight attendant say one of the bathrooms had been occupied for a while. As we were about to land, I heard the flight attendant say, "Sweetie, I can get you a ginger ale and we're about to land. Just hold on tight." I was on a flight once that was almost nothing but turbulence. I think we were flying through weather. I was already incredibly susceptible to motion sickness, so I was curled up in the window seat of the last row with the barf bag in front of my face, with a lady in the aisle seat glancing at me nervously every few minutes. I hear the announcement that we're starting our descent, and I'm like, OMG, thank the deities. I think I can make it without barfing. Literally, the wheels touch the tarmac, and I lose it. It's barf time. A flight attendant comes up to me shortly after and is like, "Well, at least you made it all in the bag." I've barfed in a lot of exciting places incredibly skillfully if anyone wants more stories. I would 100% be that lady nervously staring every few minutes. My biggest fear on airplanes isn't me getting sick, it's seeing other people getting sick. And I would absolutely not be able to look away. Oh man, same. It's never happened to me on a flight, but my wife's experience traumatized me by proxy. I am emetophobic to the extreme. Trigger warning, gross. If reading descriptions of air sickness squeaks you, stop here. Oh boy. When we were still long distance, she was traveling from the U.S. to the U.K. to see me, about 8 hours. She was sitting next to a man who, from the very get-go, looked pale and sweaty. He was adjusting the overhead fan, breathing deeply, etc., and it was obvious he was feeling unwell. When the flight attendant came around with drinks, he ordered a cup of orange juice, drank some of it, and then suddenly vomited orange juice back into the cup, all over the tray and down his shirt, with my poor wife trapped in the seat next to him. The flight attendant rushed back and helped him clean up, but the worst part is she offered him a change of shirt, and he refused, saying he was fine. So my wife had to sit next to this guy with barf down his front for the rest of the flight. The most bizarre part was that he apparently felt fine now and ordered food when the time came. My wife, bless her, couldn't eat at all. Orange juice still makes her feel queasy to this day. Oh, no, no, no. I would not feel comfortable like that. I would just bring sleep, one of those sleep masks or something for my eyes and just try to take a nap, maybe see if I couldn't smell anything. That was probably the only time I would probably justify bringing like VR goggles with me on a trip so I could just really escape the reality I was in at that moment. Story 1. I hate when I'm at work and I've finished all my tasks for the day or hit the quota and my supervisor tells me to look busy. My boss literally told me the complete opposite. Make sure you have your phone charger or a book or something, otherwise the boredom will unalive you. And he was right. What do you do? Healthcare. Screening specifically. If my patients don't show up, not a lot else I can do. And a surprising amount don't show up. I used to work in screening and deal with the same thing for almost 2 years straight. When a patient wouldn't show up, I literally wouldn't have anything to do for a while. Move to a different part of healthcare that keeps me a little busier, but I still have downtime. I'd rather be bored than burned out. I had a boss who thought I had no hustle. He couldn't get me on any metric. I had good ticket times. I'm a slow is smooth, smooth is fast type. You can stand in one spot when you have your mise en place. I noticed the cooks he liked the best were always in the weeds. They'd kind of spin in circles, loudly complain, you know the type. So I just started flapping my elbows. I'd wiggle my elbows around, grumble about tickets, and carry on doing my job. It worked. He thought I'd finally seen the light when really I was just doing my normal work plus elbow flaps. They don't want you to do more work. They just want you to literally look busy. It looks bad for them if upper management comes by and they're letting someone sit down, literally doing nothing. Just open some spreadsheets or whatever it is that you do. One thing I like to do when working in an office was take a trip. Maybe to the printer, maybe to a different floor. I need to speak to June in accounting. Stockroom is a good one because they never have cameras and nobody knows what you've gone in there for. A manager walks in and you go, "Oh, there you are. There they are. I've been looking for ages." Grab a new pack of highlighters and scooch back to your desk. If you have any minor things wrong with your PC, don't get them fixed straight away. Wait until you've got nothing else to do, then call IT. "I can't work. I'm waiting for IT to bring me a new mouse." Never fix anything yourself, even if you know how. Get someone from another department or from maintenance to do it. Or a work buddy. "Hey, Daz, you finished your work too? Can you come look at this problem I've been having?" Daz: "Well, I can fix that for you, but it'll take until exactly on the dot of 5 p.m. Easiest way is to really think about how much time you spend on thinking about other people and their clothes, what quirky things they do that you keep remembering about, that one pimple someone who walked by had on their face, etc. Chances are you don't think about those things. And if you do, it will be a fleeting thought that's forgotten within a few minutes. That's how everyone lives their lives, not thinking about those things. People are inherently egotistical. If we don't spend time thinking about ourselves and how other people might perceive us, we think about people that we love. You need to keep reminding yourself that other people really aren't all that interested in the things you do or say, how you dress, or anything else. They're busy thinking about menial things, not about you. And sure, there will always be people who actually do keep track and keep score about how well they stack up against others, but those aren't the people you want to hang out with anyway. Just my 2 cents. Yeah, I used to hate that too. Just finished up my tasks. "Well, why don't you look busy?" "Why don't you give me more work?" "Yeah, that's what you were supposed to do. I'm here. I get paid either way, so I've already finished what you told me. I don't think the problem is on my end." Story 2. With a partner that doesn't care about you, and that starts a conversation with you, and forgets that you're there. Edit. OMG, thank you to those that gave me the awards. I sincerely appreciate you, and I cannot tell you all enough how much I love seeing so much support for each other and the advice and different perspectives you've all given me. I hope to see this continue so everyone's voices, needs, and ideas are heard. Sorry, as much as it sucks, leave it behind and move on. It's for the better, aside from little bumps here and there. It's only up from here. It really hits hard because I'm thinking about leaving my fiancé. We're supposed to marry in 1.5 months, but I don't know anymore. She's only picking on me and complaining about me and everything I do. Leaving her wouldn't be too hard, honestly, but everything that goes with it, moving, the pets. But I'm also pretty close with her parents, and she still has quite a debt that I'm not going to get, probably. Edit. I don't know if anyone will read the edit, but anyway. I'm leaving her today. Why? I was helping/working at a party and twisted my foot. She was there with colleagues. I called her to say first aid wanted me to go to the hospital to take x-ray pictures. She had some drinks, so I had my mother come pick me up to drive me there. 1 a.m. My fiancé came to me and told me not to be a little shrew. Something like that. I couldn't stand on my feet. A first aid man helped me on the way to the car. Halfway, she decided she would help me, support me. Suddenly, we got to the exit, and she literally pushed me. I managed to stay upright. She even picked a verbal fight with me where my brother had to calm us down. Once I was at the hospital, she kept texting me and calling me, but I didn't pick up, obviously. She kept saying if I didn't pick up, she'd end it. Which obviously is fine by me because I'm going to end it anyway. By the way, I broke my foot. Yay! Sorry if there's bad English. It's not my native language, and I didn't sleep since 6:30 yesterday morning. It's 6:20 in the morning now. Don't make a hard choice now that becomes 100 torturous choices in the future. If you think her attitude is genuine and permanent and not just wedding-related stress, don't rush into it. Also, go talk to her and tell her how you feel. Whenever I talk to her now about how I feel about stuff, like for example the lack of intimacy the last couple months, she turns it into an argument where usually I should be the one to apologize. So yeah, that's not going to work, I guess. I talked about this with her mother, and she would understand me, but she would be sad about it. Pro tip. This doesn't get better after the wedding. You owe nothing to your fiancé or her mom. It's not your job to marry someone you don't think is right for you, so her mom doesn't have to feel upset. Her mom is an adult. She'll be fine. So will your fiancé. Take it from one who's been there, done that. And no, I didn't take my own advice, married the guy, and had to deal with an exponentially worse situation afterwards. I don't know if any of you have ever been in this situation, but yeah, being in a relationship where things just aren't going well and you just don't see any hope of it, it's just, unless you're talking about it, you either talk to your partner about it or you just end it if you don't see it going any further. Trying to stick with it without talking about it is just, nothing's going to happen because you're not doing anything. Story 3. Doing something you don't like in your leisure time. Frack all the other reasons. Let's be real. People enjoy browsing online, or they wouldn't be here. If you enjoy your time, it's not a waste. People are so melodramatic on this site and self-loathing. If it's really leisure time, I enjoy using online sites, but I think for a lot of us, this site represents what Tim Urban coined as the dark playground. We end up with a love-hate relationship with many activities we do while we procrastinate. It's often something we end up doing when we should be doing something else. I miss the wait, but why era of the internet. It seemed like online sites were more pro-science, pro-self-help, and just more interesting. I'd often see work from Tim Urban and such, and it was so valuable and frankly life-changing as a young college kid. Now it's all public freakout, facepalm, unalived by words, rage bait type of stuff. It's what the algorithm deems valuable because I guess rage and anger is addictive and gets online sites more clicks. This is a solid point. I remember when there were almost too many TEDx videos. At first I loved it, then I rolled my eyes at the "I am very smart" culture it produced. But now? Yeah, I kind of miss the blind optimism. Not to get too political, but the hope that Obama's campaign encapsulated was really the dose of optimism this world could really use. Then we dumped it down the drain. That's a great way to put it. There was a lot of hope in the air then. At least online, I felt the need to read, improve myself, exercise, and meditate, etc. Now, not so much discourse like that online. I will say the affairs of the world have dampened that hope. Inflation, cost of living, stagnant wages. Trump did a lot of damage. COVID did too. Hopefully things bounce back to the way it was. I'm not sure if it'll bounce back to the way it was. It's never going to be the same as what it was before, or never going to be exactly like that. It's a search now to find stuff that's really useful, that's a community that's really supportive and full of real people, and not just a bunch of AI-written stuff for fake internet points. Story 3. DJ Khaled. I used to believe that until I heard him play the guitar that Bob Marley's family gifted to him. That dude, I used to believe that until I heard him play the guitar that Bob Marley's family gifted to him. That dude shreds. There's a YouTube link that I'm going to have to look at later. Holy hell, that's hilarious. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. He has identical guitar skills to my 7-year-old, who has literally never attempted to practice the guitar. What he thought he sounded like, and there's another YouTube link. It looks like he's playing that guitar with a handful of beef. I honestly don't think he can read. I also got kinda the sense that he thought it was Bob Marley's personal guitar, not a production model that they were hoping he would do exactly what he did with it. Thank goodness it wasn't. It would have been like that scene in Better Call Saul where he's butchering Smoke on the Water on Richie Blackmore's guitar, only worse and in real life. Based on that video, I have to agree with you. There's more than a rumor going around that he genuinely can't read. I've seen multiple videos of him getting other people to read things out for him. I have a feeling that this is more common than people generally think. And even if he's illiterate, he can probably read and write short words and probably longer ones with visible effort, enough to get by. That level of illiteracy is a fairly invisible handicap. A man who can't eat hot wings, see hot ones, and refuses to go down on women, but expects them to suck his tool, random podcast, and can't play a guitar, a useless human being. He just straight up refuses to eat any after the third hot wing, I think. Host calls him out for being a quitter, and he says something idiotic along the lines of, "I'm not quitting, I'm just not doing it anymore." I can't remember exactly how it went. That Hot Ones is probably the funniest smeg I've ever seen. Man claims he never takes an L when he stops at wing number 3. Absolute pansy. Whenever something fracks up in my life, I just say I never take an L. He's not a rapper, not a producer, not a composer. He's barely even a DJ. He's literally a hype man that talks before other people's tracks and puts his name on it. My favorite meme is him, "Hey, name, let's collab. You write a song and I'll shout my name at the start of it." He's very good at shouting his name. Yeah, I don't know how he gets what he gets. Now, the place that he has. I mean, the videos that you see of him filming, he has to at least rent that place out that he's at, or the people that are around him. I'm almost willing to bet at this point that his family are just rented actors at this point. Story 4. Came here to say this. That guy is like a one-trick pony that life accidentally mistook for a dressage champion or something. Makes me double mad because his rise to fame made me feel something that I never wanted to feel. That I owe Guy Fieri an apology. I know, he looks like a Hot Topic manager moonlighting on a Friday, but he didn't do anything wrong. He goes around the country to small businesses and gives them free advertising on a national platform on a weekly basis. advertising those small businesses could never afford themselves with his own television show, but because his hair looks like he was electrocuted while drinking Mountain Dew, people act like we need to saw his head off and put it on the internet. Honestly, ever since the 2017 or so, people have been a lot nicer to Guy Fieri, last week or so notwithstanding. I worked at a place that was on the show and had a tray he had signed up on the wall. Every time the episode had a rerun, we'd get a bunch of people coming through asking for the things he had ordered, giving us a nice customer bump every once in a while. It's cool to see that the show really can have an effect on a restaurant. Dude was selling mufflers before Food Network. He was just trying to find a place to fit in, and the celebrity chef seemed to accept his application. Actually, he owned a restaurant called Johnny Garlic's in Santa Rosa for about a decade before the Food Network pretended to select him in a contest. Guy Fieri is the frackin' man. Walkin' on the Sun is a great song. And no talent. I'd heard of him via word of mouth, and then when I finally saw some videos of him, I thought of this as a parody of the Salt Bar guy made to make him look like a butt clown. Nope, that's the guy. He's tied to the restaurant in Vegas, right? It's like $950 for a golden steak? Hilarious stuff. What I've always found laughable is that gold leaf isn't all that expensive. You can get like a pack of 2 dozen for $15, and it doesn't taste like anything. It's just some weird old flex trashy people with money do to say they've got some money. Story 5. The frackin' artist who taped a banana to a wall and sold it for $150K. He's a talented con artist. People buying garbage art deserve to be conned, honestly. How about Piero Manzoni? He put 2.7 kilograms, 5 pounds, of his own feces into 90 cans and sold them as art. One can be sold for 275,000 euros, and there's a URL link here I'm not going to repeat. Artist's poop contains 30 GR net, freshly preserved, produced, and tinned in May 1961. I'd argue that he has a very good talent for parody and a great understanding of human nature, as he managed to develop one of the most important and talked about pieces of art in the last 50 years with nothing more than a banana, a piece of duct tape, and a certificate of authenticity, which is intentionally, ironically, the only actual permanent bit of art. Comedian by Catalan, the name of the art and artist, is intentionally a subversive P-take on the very concept of art itself, and in particular the value we assign art, and the process by which we view things as authentic art or not, and the strange power we give a signed piece of paper. The first thought everyone has about the work is perfectly correct. This art is just some dumb random banana from the kitchen taped to a wall without any talent or skill. What makes it special, though, is that this particular random banana from the kitchen taped to a wall has a certificate of authenticity. The main point of the art is that it's a weird and strange idea that a dumb banana taped to the wall magically becomes authentic art just because there's a certificate that says so. What lots of people fail to realize is that the artist Catalan is in on the joke and completely agrees that it's a weird and stupid idea to consider something with no intrinsic value a work of art just because there's a certificate that says it is. Catalan clearly finds it funny that regardless of whatever criticisms or insults people throw at his dumb idea, he can always just point at the certificate he made that he can wave around that makes his dumb idea art, which is why he called it comedian. I personally find it pretty funny and clever.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 6. The Salt Bay Dude. He had one viral video, made it onto multiple talk shows, and has just become a big tool with a massive ego. He made it onto the turf with the teams during the celebration after the FIFA World Cup. I forgot about that, and he took the cup to try and take a picture, right? I remember him trying to get a picture with Messi, and Messi just had a "who the frack are you" expression on his face. Meanwhile, every footballer out there jumps to cook with Sizan Burek. He's the apex main character. He didn't just try, he did it. Pretty sure he's banned forever now, but he did pull it off. Yeah, didn't he take the trophy out of a player's hands? He also got one of the player's medals in his fracking mouth. Should have gotten his butt kicked after that stunt. Yeah, that attention-seeking jerkwad got shut down real quick. I hope he's still salty about it. Yeah, there are a lot of other chefs that have a lot more longevity. Actually, there's even one you might not call a chef, but this guy Aki that runs a deli, and people always come up to him and ask for stuff the Aki way, and I like his stuff. And there's a bunch of other people that I like. I don't even remember the last Salt Bae video I ever saw. Story 7. James Corden. He isn't funny. He never was. He isn't quick, witty, or observant. He has poor timing. I just don't get it. Even smeg comedians like Michael McIntyre are at least high energy or something that can engage a crowd. Edit. Gavin and Stacey is unfunny puerile smeg. Never forget when Jimmy Kimmel asked Corden to name 2 cameramen on one of his games, and Corden couldn't even do that. James Corden is famous for laughing at other people's jokes. Jimmy Fallon has entered the chat. To be fair, he's an amazing impressionist. Jimmy is also a great comedic writer. He did a lot of writing for SNL during his time there. He's also allegedly a complete piece of smeg. I found the fit that he threw in the NYC restaurant recently more offensive than I ordinarily would for some random misbehavior of stars. I think it's because I've been to that same restaurant a few times on trips to NYC and have fond memories of the place and the meals. So picturing him acting like an entitled get there just ticks me off. Story 1. My old French teacher in, I think, 8th grade. It took her not even 5 minutes for us to hate her. I don't like any of you. I'm not your friend, but a teacher to annoying brats. You'll do as I say when I say it, and complainers get a 6, equivalent to an F, for this class. Her husband was a pretty cool guy, though. She was just trying to do full immersion into Parisian culture. Sorry, you triggered a French memory. My grandmother was a full-blown Frenchie from Paris. A model, no lie. Her parents sent her to stay with family in Montreal, Canada during World War I, and then moved back to Paris in 1920, where she met my 1929 grandfather, the American bum traveler, and they were married back in the U.S. in 1934. My dad says she wasn't a great mom, as she was very aloof, uncaring, and a huge snob. We didn't know this until adulthood, since she was good with us grandkids. She would teach us to speak French, wanted one of us boys to be in the French Foreign Legion, and tried to teach us the French national anthem, La Marseillaise. I still giggle when I hear it played at the Olympics. To arms, citizens! Form your battalions! Let's march! Let's march! That their impure blood should water our fields. In the French Foreign Legion? Survive for 3 years and be eligible for French citizenship. I mean, to be fair, the French national anthem is pretty awesome. It just reminded me of how terrified my Polish great-grandmother was of my grandpa joining the French Foreign Legion when he dropped out of university in Paris. He joined the U.S. Army instead. What is it with French teachers? In the 9th grade, we had a teacher from France teach us at our suburban U.S. school. We were pretty well behaved, honestly, but she just hated us. She called us all fat, told us eating eggs for breakfast was a disgusting American thing to do, and would mock our pronunciation. In such a mean way, it became comical. She got fired halfway through the semester. What's wrong with eggs for breakfast? Eggs for breakfast is actually part of an English breakfast that we continued from when we were 13 British colonies. An American here was in Japan for a job, and the hotel breakfast was dried fish, a teapot of hot water to rehydrate said fish, and a bowl of rice. I kinda missed bacon and eggs for breakfast. She felt her job was beneath her, but couldn't get anything better, so she took it out on you. Why is it always the French teacher? Good question. We had another, a French woman, who got angry all the time because our pronunciation was terrible. French is so easy and you still fail. How bad are you in your other classes? The woman always stumbles over my legs when she walks by. Wasn't on purpose. Still don't regret it. Had a French teacher that tried belittling the new speakers to a new language over their accent. I asked how long he had been teaching French and when he learned English. When he responded over 20 years ago, I asked him why his American accent wasn't better, because it was almost impossible to understand him sometimes. He got very upset. Well, some men think they have to like cars, beers, and guns in order to express manliness. Some French speakers think they have to be arrogant buttholes in order to speak French. The PE coach goes for the girls. English teacher, the boys. It must be part of their contracts. When I went back to school to get my degree, we had a physics teacher who introduced himself and then immediately launched into this tirade of how it was impossible to get an A in his class. Me, being the outspoken butthole that I usually can be, said out loud, "So there's no point in trying hard and doing your best work because it will be impossible to get an A, correct?" Everyone sat there in stunned silence, including the butthole teacher, and he mumbled something about, "Well, you should always still try to do your best in work and you might get an A." Side note is that I actually did get a B in his class, and we ended up getting along fairly well through most of the class, unbelievably. I hate teachers like that. Who hurt them? Glad to hear it did turn out fine with him in the end. I've spoken to people and traveled to different countries. I haven't been to France, though. I can't really speak about this whole attitude of French people. It's kind of like the stereotype that to speak Italian, the big majority of it is speaking with your hands. So I don't know if the attitude comes with French or not. Story 2. A friend introduced me to a stranger at a party and said we should get along great since we were both into music. The stranger was in a band, and I used to work as a sound/lighting tech. He asked why I quit music, and I told him I got sick of working every single weekend and making garbage pay. I enjoy shows for far more as an attendant than a worker. He responds, "Oh, you don't love music," which is okay. It's just that if you really loved music, you would have stuck it out. For me, I couldn't live without music. It's just different. It took about 15 seconds of conversation to realize the dude was frackin' insufferable. I worked in sound and lighting production. I always enjoyed the music. It was the ego of the artist that made the job suck. They were never on time and complained that they couldn't get a proper sound check. Try being a CPA financial planner in the music business and explaining to them their careers, with rare exception, will be short and they need to keep their spending in check. Then get fired by them because they don't want to hear it. In my decade serving the music industry, I had clients with multiple #1 hits and making tons of money to end up doing things like loading UPS trucks during the holidays so they could afford to get Christmas presents for their kids. Or becoming truck drivers, car salesmen, life insurance salesmen, and the like. We're talking about people who were something in the music industry, who'd make more money in a year than most people made in their lives. And they peed it all away and ended up dead broke. Athletes are even worse. A few years ago, the NFLPA said that 80% of players were broke 3 years out of the NFL, and a huge chunk of those were in bankruptcy. And even the ones who kept making money get over-leveraged with lifestyle creep. Buy a bunch of houses that need tons of money and staff to maintain and take years to sell. This reminds me of a guy I went to college with. We were having a conversation about music, and this dude was just sighing and seething the entire time other people were talking about their favorite songs. Then, when he finally said something, it was very condescending. "Well, it's pretty clear that none of you guys have ever actually experienced actual music." Dude's favorite and only genre was math metal. He kept trying to shoehorn his music for every student party and claimed that listening to mainstream garbage physically harms him. Migraines, anxiety. The last part is the most insufferable part about this whole thing. Also, what the hell is math metal? According to Wikipedia, mathcore, as it's commonly known, is a metal genre which is influenced by extreme metal, but characterized by its use of irregular time signatures and changes in tempo to make the rhythm more complex. The lyrics also tend to be quite pessimistic or sarcastic, which is presumably why people get insufferable about it. Anyway, here's a Wonderwall. Oh, deity forbid you want to make a livable wage. I hate it when people romanticize the starving for the arts nonsense. Crazy how like 75% of musicians are insufferable. The egos are immediately clear. Some people have lacked true humbling experiences, and others simply can't be humbled. Successful people in general lack the former by nature. I was into music when I was younger. I always wanted to become a performer, and I, unfortunately, probably would have done the same thing to a CPA that was trying to get me to cut back on spending if I had had any modicum of success. Probably still be stuck in a city, just stuck behind the scenes doing work like being a roadie or trying to do some low-level studio work. Story 3. I already decided what to order, and sorry, not sorry if you're offended, but we're going to eat what I'm ordering. You'll thank me for it. This was a person I was meeting for the first time. Well, Dennis has the more refined palate. Frank always makes me eat the beak. What the hell? This was the first thing the person said to you? Yep, the first and the last time I met him. Please tell me you just got up and left on the spot. Sounds like some wannabe alpha male smeg. It was the waiter. No tip for that guy. I'm just imagining this scenario and OP's staying there and waiting to see what the waiter had ordered. That basically ruins my opinion of the person and the food. I was on a date once, and she just started negging me from the get-go. I mistakenly picked her up and had to just listen to her talk about herself. Anytime I'd get in a word, she'd neg. I'd lost it when I was feeling a good cheese slice at the niche New York-style pizza place we went to. She said I had bad taste in pizza and actually needed to start going to XYZ. Started talking about the beer I chose, and then joked to the waitress about me, then asked me if I wanted to move in as her roommate was moving soon, and she was joking, but not joking. Edit. Fixed begging to negging. Essentially, it's putting the other person down in hopes they'll seek approval from you. They're usually backhanded compliments. You don't look like you know what you're doing. Let me get you a real drink. Yeah, there was a time where that was that whole pickup culture that was kind of popular. There were books that were written. VH1 even had a reality show with some guys, and that was supposed to be the big secret to getting women to stay interested in you was by negging, like putting them down. Unfortunately, that's probably still going on in another type. I think the word is gaslighting. That's what it is, gaslighting. Story 2. OxyContin isn't addictive. I was in a car accident and was given a prescription for OxyContin. Doc told me, get off it as soon as you can manage your pain with over-the-counter drugs. I was on it for 10 days. 10 days. I experienced withdrawal symptoms when I quit. Same. I was in a car accident and had surgery on my hand. They gave me OxyContin after my surgery. I genuinely needed it because it was the worst pain I've ever experienced. I was on a heavy dose for 2 weeks when I stopped taking it. I had withdrawal symptoms. The first day was at my grandmother's funeral. People kept asking me if I was okay because I was snapping at everyone, twitching and shaking my legs and arms. And I was like, nope, I'm going through withdrawals, apparently. Opiate withdrawal is hell. I am being 100% serious and sincere when I say that I was going through withdrawal so badly once that I was actually considering cutting off my own legs instead of going through one more second of restless legs. People, including myself, literally are convinced that unless they take more while going through withdrawals, they will expire. Every single time I see a new doctor, I make myself tell them no opiates, ever. It started with me having to go to the emergency room for a back injury where they decided the best thing for me was IV Dilucidid, I think, and sending me home with a script for Oxy. It ended with me smoking horse in my car on work breaks. Never again. Oh man, that's rough. I at least got to ride out the withdrawals at home on my couch, and my sweet mom read to me while I lay on the couch twitching and wriggling uncontrollably. Percocet for 6 weeks. Still kind of want one once in a while. I was given exactly 6 Percocet from the ER after I busted my shoulder. After taking one, I understood why people took them recreationally. Put the rest in one of those substance disposal boxes at the pharmacy. Wild how people's experiences can be so different from it. I had it when I had my wisdom teeth pulled. Took them no problem, and they did nothing but make my teeth stop hurting. Horse for 5 years. Began with Oxy from wisdom teeth. My best friend overdosed last month and passed away. I was the one who introduced him to the substance. I've been clean for 3 years. Part of his passing is my fault. As someone who used to work at a third-party ad company, whose main client for me was Purdue, I can tell they knew, and they didn't give a frack. Those smeg bags monitored street prices because if the prices dropped on the street, something was wrong with the product. They only introduced the ER version for the sound of it being unable to be abused, which wasn't even remotely true. Frack that company. But don't forget that many other companies produce many other opioids. I had surgery for a broken wrist from a bike accident, and they gave me a couple of times pain meds. It wasn't Oxy, but it was something else, but I didn't touch it. I had pain, but I decided to just manage the pain myself, and I'm thankful that I never touched that stuff. Story 3. Nestle. The baby unaliver scandal. They deliberately lied to mothers in developing countries to sell their baby formula, telling them that their own milk was nutritionally insufficient and their babies would be unhealthy if they continued to breastfeed them. The result of this marketing campaign was approximately 66,000 infant mortalities. In addition to that, I remember reading that Nestle actually gave away free formula to the new mothers long enough that they wouldn't be able to switch to breastfeeding. They went way beyond that. They dressed people up as doctors and had them stand at the hospital and hand out just enough free formula to disrupt the new mother's milk supply. They offered architecture services to hospitals and then designed them to have the mother's ward far from the babies, also to disrupt milk supply. The baby eats constantly at first, and this is what triggers the body to start producing milk. Even a day or two of disruption, and for some women, that window of opportunity is gone. I believe their continued sales in Nestle are estimated to actually have unalived millions. If I would like to avoid Nestle, there is a lot of stuff. Baby food. Cerelac, Gerber, Nature Nest, bottled water, Nestle Pure Life, Perrier, S. Pellegrino, cereals, Cheerios, Fitness, Lion, Nesquik cereal, chocolate and confectionery, Aero, Kaler, Kit Kat, Milky Bar, Nestle, Le Recette de L'Atelier. I botched that French. I'm very sorry. Orion, Quality Street, Smarties, Toll House, coffee, Blue Bottle Coffee, Nescafe, Nescafe Dolce Gusto, Nespresso, Starbucks Coffee, At Home Culinary, chilled and frozen food. Buitoni, Herda, Hot Pockets, Lean Cuisine, Maggie's, Stouffer's, Thorny. Or is that Thommy? Dairy, Carnation, Coffee Mate, La Laitière, again, sorry for the botched French, Nido Drinks Milo, Nesquik, Nestea, Food Services, Chef, Chef Mate, Maggie, Milo, Miners, Nescafe, Nestea, Sjora, Lean Cuisine, Stouffer's, Healthcare Nutrition, Boost, Nutrin Jr., Peptamen, Resource, Ice Cream, Dryers, Extreme, Haagen-Dazs, Movenpick, Nestle Ice Cream, Pet Care, Alpo, Baker's Complete, Beneful, Cat Chow, Dog Chow, Fancy Feast, Felix, Friskies, Gourmet, Purina, Purina One, Pro Plan. This is from their website. Isn't it Nestle that also was the one that had the belief, the ones that said that they didn't think water was a human right? But that stuff, if that stuff had happened in America before, there would have at least been some sort of outcry. In other countries, I have to look up what other countries that was from because that is awful. Story 4. The 1964 Surgeon General's report concluded that smoking cigarettes causes fatality and disease. However, in a 1971 television interview, the president of Philip Morris denied the health risks that pregnant women and their babies face, saying that, quote, "It's true that babies born from women who smoke are smaller, but they're just as healthy as the babies born to women who do not smoke. Some women would prefer to have smaller babies," unquote. My mom and her younger sister were born about 11 months apart in the late 60s. My grandma stopped smoking while she was pregnant with my mom, but when she got pregnant with my aunt, she was like, "Frack that, I'm not doing another 9 months of this." My mom is around 5'7" or 5'8", while my aunt claims to be 5 foot even, but I'd bet she's 4'11". My grandma claims it's because she fell once when she was pregnant with my aunt. Makes me sad because obviously somewhere deep down she knows the truth and is lying to herself about it because she feels guilty. Which sure, she should have known better on some level, but like you're saying here, there was a lot of misinformation at the time that it could be easy to give into if you have a nicotine craving. My mom's one of 3 girls, and my grandma smoked throughout 1 pregnancy only. That daughter had a lower birth weight, required supplemental oxygen for a short while after birth, grew up to be about 3 to 4 inches shorter than her sisters, and had asthma all her life. Grandma fully accepts that her smoking affected her daughter's health and regrets it greatly. I always think of community when people regret things they knew were bad. Be sorry about this stuff before you do it. Then don't do it. It's called growing up. Jeff Winger. My brother is 6'4". My older sister is 6 foot. My younger sister is 6'1". I'm 5'7". Want to guess which pregnancy my mom smoked through? Also, I was born 8 weeks early and spent 4 months in the NICU with breathing problems. Story 5. A specific historical example. In 1843, a man called Hong Xiuquan claimed to be the younger brother of Jesus. This led to him starting the Taiping Rebellion, which caused the fatality of between 20 million and 70 million people. Then again, he probably believed it, so it might not count as a lie. Chinese history is frackin' wild. The smeg that happens always ends up getting 10 million people unalived. It's how you get incredibly gruesome massacres like the Sichuan massacre. From the wiki on the Sichuan massacre. The massacres, a subsequent famine and epidemic, attacks by tigers, as well as people fleeing from the turmoil in the Qing armies, resulted in a large-scale depopulation of Sichuan. Attacks by tigers? Bro, what? Considering size and population density, a China-wide war is basically the equivalent to a full-on European war. Like, compare it to the 30 Years' War, Napoleonic conquest, 7 Years' War, and World War I. I think the Taiping Rebellion was something to the tune of 20 to 30 million fatalities. But not just wars. They decided they wanted to exterminate sparrows at one point, and it led to a locust surge which caused a famine that caused somewhere from 15 to 55 million fatalities. When a frackin' pest control campaign is comparable to World War II, you know you fracked up hard. I can't even imagine these numbers. The suffering had to be unreal. That sounds like hell. It's not a lie, if you believe it. Today I learned Hong Xiuquan is George Costanza. Story 2. Those shorts videos that are now almost in every platform. If you have problems with focus and getting smeg done, then you know if you keep watching them, you might end up in the next day without even realizing you haven't done anything yet. One creator I watch on YouTube has basically said, I have to resort to making these shorts or I'll disappear as a creator. It's awful that these platforms are forcing it on everyone involved. Yeah, I follow a few people and they're always apologizing about clickbait titles and misleading thumbnails, but say they don't get nearly as much traffic without them. There's a guy that I watch that does a bunch of car stuff on YouTube. He's pretty successful. doing well enough that he quit his mechanic job to do YouTube stuff full time. Anyway, he had a video about a short of his that went viral and had millions of views, but his earnings from the short were a pittance compared to those of a full-length video with less views. I thought that was interesting. Edit, so people will stop asking. It's no-nonsense know-how. It's great for bringing entertainment to your platform, but you need to link them to your main channel somehow. Shorts have no ads, so no revenue, and it's extremely hard/annoying to sponsor shorts, so that's pretty much all you get out of it, engagement. Shorts on YouTube 100% have ads. The way the pay system for shorts works, if I remember correctly, is that users' views start counting from the moment they see their first ad, and then any shorts they watch get put into a bucket of all other users who saw that ad or other ads, and then the money from that ad gets split out amongst all the creators. There are a number of issues with it this way, like all the shorts you watch before the first ad, but it's what YouTube is doing, and as far as I know, they have a better ad split than TikTok. Not quite how it works. User views start counting immediately, not just after an ad is seen. All ad revenue from ads between shorts gets put into a bucket, and that bucket then gets split up every month based on the percentage of total views each creator got. There is a separate bucket for each country, and both YouTube and music companies take a cut to cover shorts using copyrighted music. The bit of controversy isn't about the shorts you watch before the first ad, as those views are still monetized, but rather the ads you watch before the first short. YouTube, for some reason, has decided if a user opens the Shorts feed and immediately sees an ad, that revenue shouldn't go into the bucket and is all theirs. Proper ADHD traps, those. Weirdly, I think my ADHD is protecting me from them. I can't stand shorts, TikTok, etc., because all you're doing is sitting and watching them. I can watch longer videos just fine because I can split my attention, i.e., if I'm following along an instructional video, then I'm watching as well as doing something, or for longer videos, I can put them on and do something else. But my attention span feels too short to just sit somewhere and only watch videos for longer than a few minutes, even if those videos are different from each other. I got caught in that trap, and I'm still trying to get out. It's hell because I barely get by finishing assignments. Edit. All these comments make me realize this is an actual problem. I had decided to quit YouTube and am now only really using social media that is more text/image based. Honestly, not as bad as I thought so far. I create content myself on my own channels talking about indie games and older games, and I still am not at the point where I am monetized yet, but I know I'm going to have to face these decisions myself, and I'm probably going to be making decisions about what kind of thumbnails and clickbait and what titles I use. I'm probably going to be clickbait, and I'm probably going to face some harsh decisions that I probably won't like. Story 3. Those talking videos with like 3 things happening on the screen simultaneously? Social media is absolutely atrocious for attention span. Using that many distractions on a 30-second clip just exponentially enhances that problem. Edit. For people that want an example, in case any check back in, here's a parody on that trend being used in this video, and there's a link. I don't subscribe to anybody that does this sort of smeg, but the first time I saw a video that was meant to be informative with Minecraft parkour in the background on the top half and funny cat memes on the bottom half, I realized we've reached internet supersaturation. We can't go any lower. We've reached internet rock bottom. I hope. Edit. I forgot people will see this as a challenge. We're doomed, apparently. We can go deeper still. Okay, James Cameron. I thought the multi-split content screens were mostly a tactic to circumvent the hosting platform's anti-piracy/copyright algorithms. Most of what I've seen has the copyright content on one part of the screen, Minecraft, etc. on the second part, plus a secondary soundtrack on the background. Right or wrong? My first exposure to this phenomena was a meme with Subway Surfers. Family Guys or some ASMR smeg. I had no idea that people actually make videos doing 3 things at once. It's a fracking attention span genocide. I've never heard of these videos. What do you mean by 3 things happening simultaneously? There will be someone or an AI voice telling a story or talking about a type of makeup, etc. There'll be a screen showing Subway Surfers or Minecraft gameplay or some other gameplay, or a screen showing colorful sand being mixed together, and a screen showing some new challenge, etc. These screens may change content throughout the 30-second video. It takes micro-entertainment to a new level. If you keep to one medium, Subway Surfer gameplay, someone may get bored halfway through and stop watching. It's a gimmick to keep people's attention. I don't know. I don't know which way it is. I think it's this way. I'm part of it, I guess. I don't think this is as bad as those that are showing 3 things at once. And again, I am not an AI. This is the whole reason behind that.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 4. I no longer watch or read any news. I've had people tell me I'm ignorant because of it. Fair enough. But constantly hearing about politics, who's been unalived or intimately assaulted, where a bomb or natural disaster has unalived thousands of innocent people, how fracked the economy is, etc., on a loop just ruin my mental health and self-esteem. It takes me 45 minutes to drive to work, and I used to listen to the news the whole time. By the time I got to work, my day and mood would be ruined by 9 a.m. Of course horrible things are going on in the world, but I'm one person. It sounds ignorant, but there's not much I can do to change things. Yes, of course, every voice counts. But again, I'm just one person. Now that I'm no longer hearing constant negativity and how the world is fracked, I realize that life is honestly quite all right. Nothing's perfect, but I'm so much happier now. Negativity gets clicks/listens more than positivity does, and news channels capitalize on this and give people the worst, most sensationalized news possible to keep them listening. People weren't designed to know more than a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people max. Natural empathy is being overloaded, and your soul damaged by constantly hearing about millions of people suffering who we have no capability to help or comfort. I also have this theory that we're not built to handle reading the thoughts of so many other people. Like literally reading people's posts and comments and tweets all day has a profound impact on the human psyche. When you read things, you're creating a voice in your head. You're hearing the innermost feelings and thoughts of thousands of people every day, echoed back to you in your own voice, inside your own head. A cacophony of internal dialogue that doesn't go anywhere. It just rests in your brain like a part of you, being tossed around until the brain finds ways to connect it to your own actual experiences. This can be beneficial if you're trying to learn a new skill or language, but most people just absorb smeg that makes them feel bad or validates their cynicism in some way, or reinforces negative thoughts they've already been having. We're filling our minds with countless thoughts that on some level the brain can't really distinguish as belonging to us or others. This has to be having a profound and dangerous effect on the way we look at ourselves in the world. Absolutely, I feel this. Recently, I was listening to a daily news podcast on my way to work, with the top story being Ukrainians talking about how many people they've lost and how their lives have changed and how fatality is such a part of their life now. By the time I got to work, I was just sobbing in my car because my heart is broken for these people. I'm all for being caught up on what's happening, but I have to give myself news diets and breaks just so I can live a productive and peaceful life.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.